Hey everyone, welcome to the Wrestling Experience.
Where we pre-ordered the new iPhone, but we wish we waited for the H phone.
Brother, let me tell you, man. You can
Brother.
tweet, you can Instagram, you can Facebook, and you can make your calls with the H phone.
And you can open up an episode of Raw the same way, because that's how Raw opens up, the Legends Edition.
Oh my god, I'm Jess.
I'm Janny.
And yeah, you're right. It's Legends Edition. We have Hulk Hogan, who's basically, I guess, hyping up his new phone or something like that. He basically talks about how Hulk Hogan, the H phone, and the Legends are going to run wild on us, and then he flexes. Sure, it's such a weird.
But it doesn't end there, because Raw actually opens up with two other legends, Miz and Morrison, right?
Oh my
and
god.
We have Miz TV, and I mean, like,
let's just say that it was a legendary bad segment.
Yeah, so what happens? They hype up the show. They talk about a couple of matches, like the title match. There's Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. They mention a few legends that are there doing their whole correct thing. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they forget about the biggest legend, The Miz. And he's optimistic, The Miz, about 2021 since he got his briefcase back. Mm-hmm. And he invites their guests, The New Day. And everyone's dancing. Everyone's happy. But The New Day hijacks the show early on, right? It becomes their own show called The New Day Talks.
Yeah.
And Woods is the band leader, and they also make fun of The Miz with the correct thing. There's a couple of back and forth insults between them. I think Miz makes fun of Woods for bombing G4. Xavier Woods is the bailiff of the show, because apparently you got to have a bailiff, even though it's not like a judge or courtroom show. The thing is, of course, the New Day have some New Year's resolutions they want to talk about, and Morrison indulges in them, right? He has a few of himself, and they ask which legend you'd like to go to dinner with. Morrison is super into it. I think he says Tatanka, which was kind of funny. But Miz is not having any of this. He's fed up. He's tired of people making fun of him, making jokes about him, and he's getting very, very angry. And then we hear some familiar music on the speaker, right?
Holla. It's Teddy Long, and Teddy Long is basically there. He's all business, and he sets a match for Miz and Morrison against The Undertaker. Little did he know that Undertaker was not there. Adam Pearce actually reminds him, and he says, "My bad, y'all. It's going to be a tag team match instead, holla holla. And it's going to be The New Day versus Miz and Morrison, and it's up next." So we get the first match of the night. The match itself was okay. I just feel really bad for John Morrison for looking like a chump, for looking like Miz's lackey. There's no other way of kind of saying this.
21 needs to be better for John Morrison. It's not fair. Like, I mean, there was some cool sequences early on, right, in the match. John Morrison looked amazing with a standing shooting star, even though I think it was Woods or Kofi that just dodged it completely.
Yeah, even though it was missed.
Yeah, and then what happened? Kofi does a monkey flip. It was the other way. Morrison does the monkey flip on Kofi. He lands on his feet. Kofi returns the favor, but Morrison just face plants. That was kind of disappointing.
Yeah. After the break, though, the heels were a little bit in control. Morrison actually got some offense in. And when the referee wasn't looking and The Miz was the legal man, Morrison actually kicked Kofi in the face. Kofi does hit The Miz with the SOS. Both people make the hot tag. It's just now Xavier and Morrison that are in. Morrison actually hits Woods with a forearm, I believe, and then Xavier hits him with a forearm of his own. Morrison does try to cheat his way by putting his foot on the ropes, but Kofi intervenes and Xavier hits him with the Shining Wizard for the win. So, poor Morrison. I just feel really bad for him. There's no other way of kind of...
Agreed. I would like to see him go higher up on the card.
Yeah.
And... I feel like if we're going to have a pairing of Miz and Morrison where one is the lackey and the other one is the star, I think the roles should be reversed. I think Morrison is better off as the star and Miz as the lackey. But this is what we got.
Yeah. So
we got backstage interview with Randy Orton. I like this one. Hey, this one was pretty good. He was asked about what happened last week, and the voices are back apparently in his head. He said he started hearing them again, and they really wanted him to set Alexa Bliss on fire, but he just couldn't do it. And he was disgusted with himself for showing mercy and compassion. And he mentions how he's been changed by the Fiend, because that's a running narrative where you come in contact with the Fiend and he changes you. And so he goes as far to say that he hates himself now, but maybe he can use that hate and channel it and change, and he can direct the hate towards someone else. And then he kind of like snarkingly says he's going to go look for some legends. And he has a very, very, very evil smile on his face as he says that.
Yeah, I guess we'll be seeing more of Randy Orton. But before, we do have Angel Garza, and he sees Alicia Fox, who looks great. He's offering her a rose, and she talks about some dude on a skateboard on TikTok or something like that, and she walks off. Garza then sees Tatanka, Mickie James looking real good, and our new Twitter follower, Sergeant Slaughter. And the Sarge...
So happy to see him.
The Sarge isn't happy that Garza is bothering them, and he calls him a puke. And Angel's like, well, you know what? I'm doing this with respect. He offers a rose to Mickie James, who takes it. But Sarge actually snatches the rose, smells it, and then he calls him a puke or a maggot, actually.
A maggot. Yeah. And then he gives the rose to Mickie James, yeah. So, and it's important to note here that Angel Garza is the 24/7 champion because he won it at New Year's Eve, I think. There was like a small clip before this that says that shows him winning the title while R-Truth and New Day are celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he wins with the roll-ups. That's interesting.
I think it was like a TikTok video or it was on social media. The WWE posted that. But now we are going to go to AJ Styles versus Elias in a very short match, to be quite honest with you. Styles was in control early on. Elias did try turning it on with the power move, but Styles kept holding on. And Elias does get the advantage. I remember at one point he hit him with like a couple of huge strikes and a clothesline. Elias throws AJ into the ropes and he sends AJ outside and they call him Omos now. It's not almost anymore. Omos. Yeah,
I noticed that.
It just changed.
One thing is when they made their entrance, AJ and Omos or however you want to say it now, they were like having some playful banter. So it looks like this. They're maybe slowly easing into this face turn for AJ Styles because again he was more of the face in this match than the heel.
Yeah, exactly. I remember at one point AJ actually nails Styles with a choke slam, vintage Undertaker right there.
It was a nice choke slam.
Does go for the phenomenal forearm, but Elias actually hits back with a jumping knee. That was really sick. I remember there was a electric chair moment where Elias kind of had AJ Styles up and AJ actually reversed that impressively and he nailed him with a Styles Clash for the win. So that was pretty great. But what happened post-match was pretty awesome though because, AJ Styles is still coming to his senses and then Riker is about to hit him with a guitar. AJ dodges it and then Omos just kicked the guitar out of nowhere. And that was actually really, really great.
That was incredible.
We actually saw a replay of that. That was really cool.
Not only did we see a replay, but I was watching Raw after the fact, so I was rewinding my video and I watched it 3 or 4 times over. It was really awesome. I liked the match too. I mean, it was a little bit of repeat from last week. Probably not as good as last week's match, but very, very solid. And don't forget that there was before the Style Clash, there was a really nice brainbuster from AJ Styles after he countered that electric chair powerbomb thingy. But it was all about that kick.
Yeah, so we do see now Charlotte announce her entry in the Royal Rumble, and she's also teaming up with Asuka to face Lacey Evans and Peyton. But before we
get not a tag team.
Yeah, we're not a tag team.
They are not a tag team.
Before we get that, though, we do have Riddle backstage with the Big Show, and he calls him the Big Bro. And Big Show also does the same thing. They have a nice moment together. Riddle says that he has some nice pipes. And as Riddle leaves, in comes Randy Orton, and Randy is taunting the Big Show, and he talks about how the last time he was in the ring, he got hit with an RKO. He actually grabs the Big Show by the throat, and Big Show is actually smart, though. He knows what Randy is going to do, and he's not going to fall for his bait. So Randy is going to have to bother another legend. But we do have our match now. We do have Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, who are not a team. Thank you for reminding me, versus Asuka and Charlotte with Ric Flair.
Have a video package before talking about how they're not a team, but they have a tag team opportunity, but they're not a team, okay? It's important to remember that they are not a team.
And the whole story of this match is just basically Lacey Evans that's like sweet-talking, flirting with Ric Flair. She's really not into this match, and Charlotte is getting pissed off even more and more that Lacey Evans would even, have the audacity to flirt with her father. And Peyton Royce is actually wooing as well. So everyone is basically distracting Charlotte. But listen, she's super Charlotte.
It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't even matter. Exactly. Asuka finally gets a tag. She nails both of them with a running hip attack and a double bulldog. That was really nice to see. And as this is happening, Lacey is once again flirting with Ric Flair. She gets slapped by Charlotte. And while Charlotte is kind of scolding her dad or telling her dad to kind of stay in his corner, Lacey nails her with a spear. So this is where the heels are kind of in control, and they're working on Asuka. They're slowing the pace down, and then Charlotte gets the hot tag. She cleans house. She's basically chopping both Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. And there's pretty much a chaos at this point because Charlotte hits the double moonsault on both Peyton and Lacie. Asuka comes in with a knee to the face. There's a natural selection. There's a missed hip attack. Lacie is once again flirting with Ric Flair. I don't even know what's going on. But essentially...
she grabs him by the tie, right? And she like...
Yeah, like there's a whole commotion going on. And then as this is happening, Ric Flair accidentally pulls Charlotte's leg. Or I guess he didn't mean to. I don't know what happened there. And Peyton gets a roll-up victory. So Peyton defeats Bayley and she defeats Charlotte.
Pins Charlotte. Okay, that's the only good thing about this because I'm very tired of this tag team of Charlotte and Asuka where Asuka looks like a chump every week and Super Charlotte can't be stopped. Like literally the beginning of the match was Charlotte just owning everybody and tagging out because she felt like it. But like what happened with the trip? Because it really looked like he intentionally tripped his daughter. There was no way he could have made this mistake.
Listen,
there was plenty of time for him to realize that he was going to trip his daughter.
Horny Ric Flair came in and he did the job, and his poor daughter wasn't happy at the end. She looked really pissed off. She basically went up to him face to face and she told him to stay out of her business and to get out. And Ric Flair,
like he was gonna cry.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was going to say that he was crying and he started bleeding a bit.
Yes, he did bleed at one point, and he also did get the kiss from Lacie. So I mean, it must have been worth it in the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna jump to Drew McIntyre, who's prepping backstage, and Sheamus is firing him up, and Hogan shows up, and he tells them he's their number one fan. He wishes Drew luck. He says that he's proud of Drew for what he did during the pandemic, which is true. You know, Drew has been a great champion during these. I guess unforeseen times, and he talks about how Drew reminds him of him, and Drew has to pretend that he's very happy to hear that compliment. He says that that it's very surreal. He thanks Hulk Hogan, and he says, "Well, you know what? If I remind you of you, doesn't Sheamus remind you of Jimmy?" And Sheamus does the whole "Let me tell you something, brothers," and. Anyways, this happened. There's the whole Hulk Hogan shtick going on. They start flexing, and what you gonna do, brother?
But the best part was like when he said he's the mouth of the south of Ireland, and then Sheamus is like upset, and he's like, "Okay, none of you guys are funny, and I'll see you later for drinks." And then they do the "What you gonna do" when Claymore Mania runs wild on Keith Lee and the Legends and whatever, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna jump to our next match. We have Riddle versus Lashley, which I thought the ending was actually quite clever. So
I have a problem with this actually. Okay, I have so many problems with this.
So
but let's go.
Riddle gets the advantage. He strikes Lashley before the match is even official. And Lashley, however, just overpowers him. So whatever Riddle had, Lashley just kind of picked him up. He nailed him onto the ring post outside. That was pretty brutal. And when we came back from the break, it was all Lashley. While Riddle did hit him with like a Broton and a running knee, and he did miss a flying bro. I remember at one point, and Lashley just kind of power slammed him with ease. But all that to say is that Lashley puts on the Hurt Lock, and Matt Riddle is trying to escape, and as he's trying to escape, his foot is in the air. The referee tries to get out of the way so the referee doesn't get hit, right? So that was a smart move from the ref. And as the referee is not seeing, as he's moving, Riddle taps out, and Lashley lets go of him. And he's celebrating, MVP is celebrating, and the ref didn't see it though. So Riddle's like, aha, okay, this is a genius plan. He rolls him up for the win. I thought it was clever. The commentary team did talk about how they were like, oh, well, did he tap out? Or did Riddle realize that the referee wasn't seeing, so Riddle tapped to get himself out of the lock, and then he took advantage. And I think that is the latter, in my opinion.
God, I really hope so, because it really doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, you can argue that Lashley looked really strong because he was kicking out at one all the time, but this is dumb. Like, he has the Hurt Lock in, and he sees Riddle tap. We all see Riddle tap except the referee. And Lashley, being the badass, mean guy that he's always, the bully that he is as the Hurt Business CEO, decides to let go of the hold before hearing the bell. This is a guy who continues to hold the hold even well after the bell because he likes to hurt his opponents. This time decides, I'm going to let him go, and then gets rolled up. I found that was really just so dumb.
So here's the thing.
So dumb, and made him look super bad.
Here's the thing. I think that they were in a situation where they weren't going to have Riddle win this clean right away, and they weren't going to have Lashley win this either, because then it would make Riddle look bad. So then how else do you kind of do this? I feel like Riddle needed to have the upper hand, and he really needed to piss off Lashley, because as Riddle is celebrating, man, Lashley was popping some veins, man. Like, he was really, really
Absolutely.
pissed off. And I think that there was nothing else that Riddle could have done for Lashley to have reacted that way. So that's why I was okay with it. And I was like, Riddle is actually very smart. He took advantage, and he wasn't like the baby face that had to win it like in a very clean way. Like, he was just like, listen, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. Yes, Lashley let go of me. Usually Lashley is, kind of enjoying the pain, and he's kind of still inflicting pain even after the person taps out. But this time around, something happened with Lashley. He let go, so let me take advantage of that. I don't know. Like, it could be just that,
No, but I mean, you make a very solid point. Obviously, this needed to be a thing where Riddle wins so that the feud can continue without winning clean. Sure. Yes. I'm totally on board with that. But again, to say that Riddle is smart because he knew that he tapped knowing that the ref wasn't looking, even though he had no eyes on the ref, is very dumb. They could have done this so much better, without making Lashley look like an idiot by basically, I don't know, he could have threw a bronut at him, and he could have, like, when the ref wasn't looking, and pinned him like that. I think that would have been less bad. I don't know, like, Lashley just looks dumb. Why would he let go of the hold? Like, no trained MMA fighter would do that.
They should just hire us to be, I guess, part of their writing team. But then again, they would just shun all our ideas, right?
Probably, maybe.
So I don't know. We're going to go backstage with Ricochet, who's talking to Mark Henry. And Mark Henry's kind of giving a little bit of a pep talk. And he's telling him to stay strong. And Ricochet, walks off. He thanks him. And then Randy Orton is there. He stops Mark Henry, and he talks about officially entering the Royal Rumble. So that's official. That's happening. And then he berates Mark Henry showing up on a scooter. I guess Mark Henry was injured or he had surgery or something like that. And he starts making fun of him. How fast does it go? Like, how fast can you roll? Blah, blah, blah. And Mark Henry's like, well, hopefully fast enough to get away from your ass. And Randy actually stops him. He's like, listen, Hall of Pain, like, I've been on the receiving end. I owe you a lot of receipts. And I'll give you a pass, though. It is Legends Night, and he's feeling nice as long as you pedal your ass out of here. I just felt really bad for poor Mark Henry, man.
Well, I feel bad for every legend that Orton's going to encounter for this entire episode. But yeah, what's up with Mark Henry? Was that just a temporary thing, or is he like stuck like that forever? Like, is it just like recovering from surgery?
I think usually when someone has that sort of injury, it's normal that they're like on that little scooter because they have to put their knee, like, I guess, at an angle or something. Okay, like
so it's a temporary thing. It just
I think I guess the years of him. I don't know. Like, I'm assuming that it's some sort of surgery that he went through, and he didn't want to miss the show. So we're going to go backstage with Lashley, MVP, and Charlie Caruso. Both MVP and Lashley are pissed off for good reason. MVP talks about, listen, like, there's no controversy. Lashley was just plain robbed. It was a travesty. And, Lashley gets on the mic and he's like, listen, he tapped out, and when I get my hands on him, I'm going to punish his punk ass. And, Riddle done pissed him off right now.
Yeah, I mean, this did kind of save grace for Lashley a little bit, but still, they should have just done that. I was mad about that match. Should have been done differently. So fine, okay. Mandy Rose is going to face Shayna Baszler because of last week, because Dana Brooke faced Shayna Baszler. But wait, she's not, because as she makes her way to the ring, Shayna Baszler attacks her and beats her up. And so Mandy is taken out, and Dana comes out to say, what's up, what's going on? And then offers to fight Shayna instead. And then we get not really a match because...
like, legit 45 seconds, not even.
Yeah, Dana looks pretty good early on, but then Shayna gets the clutch, but Dana does a clever way of rolling Shayna over and, like, pins her while she's in the clutch and wins the match that way. And Shayna's still holding the clutch, but Mandy comes in for the save, and then they kind of beat her up. And so Shayna looks pretty bad, loses, gets beat up by both, and where's Nia? I don't know.
Right, exactly. So we're going to go backstage, and now Ric Flair is talking to Molly Holly and IRS. Really, really nice to see Molly Holly. Randy Orton actually intervenes, and he's like, how about for old time's sake you walk out with me against Jeff Hardy? And, Ric Flair talked about how he believed in him, like he really wanted him to beat his record. And Orton kind of just stops him right in his path. He's like, you taught me everything. You were the dirtiest player in the game, but now you're only relevant because of your daughter. And he's like, when I look at you, I see a man that looks like Ric Flair. I see a man, I see a man that sounds like Ric Flair, but you're nothing but a pathetic old man. And poor Ric Flair is about to cry once again.
Now, I had a thought, like, imagine before the camera pans out, he just goes, woo, and brushes the whole thing off like a champ.
That would have
been great, because poor Ric Flair, man, he did not have a good episode of Raw.
No, he didn't. But now we have Keith Lee, who's prepping backstage. Riddle comes in, and he offers him good luck, but he doesn't need it because he's a stallion. And Keith Lee just thanks him for the pep talk. So Keith Lee is locked and loaded, man. He looked like a man on a mission. But before we get to
you're going to say $1 million.
Yes, but I was going to say that when he was going to make his entrance, but you stole my thunder.
Sorry, bro.
So we do have Rnay Orton versus Jeff Hardy, and it doesn't take long for Rnay Orton to kind of take the action outside. He nails Jeff Hardy's head numerous times onto the announce table, and he just slams him onto the table. And then there was a part of the match where he starts working on Jeff's arm, and Hardy did try to fight back, but whenever he had some sort of offense, Randy would just put a stop to it by working on his arm some more. But I did think that this match was really, really good, though.
Well, Randy did slow down the pace. Yeah, Jeff countered a few times. Like, he hit a twist of fate that looked like a neck breaker, so I wasn't even sure if it was the twist of fate. Jeff does try to go for the swanton, but Orton rolls out of the ring, and then Jeff just dives after him on the outside. Later on in the match, Orton's working on the ears again. He's going for the ear loops. And Jeff does get a nice draping DDT. He counters the draping DDT rather and hits a whisper in the wind. Again, Orton rolls out of another swanton attempt, and this time does nail the draping DDT. And then there's a beautiful end sequence where he attempts the RKO. Jeff counters, tries to do the twist of fate, but Orton spins out into another RKO and wins the match that way, which was so smooth.
Oh, it was really, really great. Again, this match was really good, and I don't know if you saw, but I don't know if you made the the distinction. But Jeff Hardy, the clothes that he was wearing were the same that he wore at Royal Rumble back in 2008. I thought that was pretty interesting that he did that.
I did not, and I would like to go back and take a look, but
do it, bro.
Can always count on you to notice the little things, eh?
Thank you very much. So now we are going to jump to Lucha House Party walking backstage. They see Melina, who looks great, and they fanboy over her, and Melina does.
And she fangirls over them, right?
Yeah, she does the whole lucha thing with them, and that's it. We have Lucha House Party versus the Hurt Business. We do have a video promo of the Lucha House Party.
They said nothing, eh? They said absolutely nothing.
They talk about Lucha Lit and Legends and whatever, and I'm like, all right, cool.
And 2021.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I literally wrote, they have a pre-recorded promo where they say nothing. They don't say anything. They just talk about stuff. It doesn't do anything.
And the match itself, though, listen, the whole story of the match is, Lucha House Party did get some decent offense in, right? I remember at one point, some great offense by Grand Metalik, but it was countered by a vicious powerbomb by Shelton. And then Cedric kind of comes in. That was it for Metalik. Yeah, exactly. But then,
that was it for him.
Yeah, Cedric comes in.
It was just Lindsay all the way after.
He goes for a lumbar check, but Lindsay comes in and he gets mauled by Cedric. And I think the whole point of this match is that there was a disagreement from Shelton and Cedric. They kept tagging themselves in, and then while this is happening, Cedric gets kicked outside, and then Shelton is kind of rolled up for the victory. And so it wasn't an
MVP
amazing...
is on commentary too, and he's saying stuff especially to Cedric, don't play with him, just take care of business. And MVP is upset too after the match, saying that they should be embarrassed, and Cedric is just angry and storms off. It's just the whole, but like you said, the story of the match is the Hurt Business. There's a crack in the tag team, and the Hurt Business is not having a good night with Lashley losing, and then the tag champs losing.
Yeah, and then after the match, MVP's yelling at both of them, telling them to get on the same page. Cedric starts barking at them, and MVP says, listen, we win as a team. And then Cedric says that, well, he wasn't the one that got pinned, and then he walks off. So, a little bit of a rift for the Hurt Business. But now we are going to go to our final backstage segment. We have Angel Garza, who offers a rose to Tori Wilson, looking like $1 million. And she's talking to Nikki Cross, and instead of accepting his rose, she tells him that Cardi B and Kendall Jenner, I think, are having a party.
I think it was
Kylie Jenner, in that dark room or something. And then when Angel goes in, it's actually the Boogeyman, and this scares Angel Garza. And as he kind of runs off, R-Truth is there, rolls him up, and now R-Truth is your new 24/7 champion. And we also get a special surprise from Ron Simmons. We get his damn.
That was probably the highlight of Raw for me. That was so good. Ron Simmons saying one word is one of the most entertaining things ever.
Yeah. So
the good old damn.
Now let's just go to the main event, because there's nothing much to say besides that this was a banger of a main event. The Legends actually had a front row seat for this match, and it was cool because both of them are playing tug of war to begin with. Each of them are kind of testing one another and trying to get the best of the other. It's power versus power, but Keith Lee is able to shoulder tackle Drew McIntyre. He strikes him once, and then Keith Lee just kind of nails him with a forearm, sending Drew outside. And then he pounces Drew, and then Drew kind of goes flying off the barricade. That was really nice to see. But after the break, Drew was in control. He hits Keith Lee with the top rope move. And then I'm wondering, wait, how did Drew get control? And then I cannot believe that we didn't see this, and they actually showed a replay of it. Drew McIntyre powerbombed Keith Lee onto the announce table, but hitting the edge of the announce table. And I'm like, man, Keith Lee is going to be feeling that for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, like, what was up with that? Like, we came back from commercial. Drew was clearly beaten before the commercial, and he's all of a sudden doing a top rope clothesline, and then they're explaining to us what happened. And I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
right?
It would have been nice to see that live,
Yeah, and the legends are now sitting. They all got chairs, which is something interesting to see. There was a very cool sequence where Drew tries to avoid a clothesline and tries to do the backslide, but he can't quite get it, but ends up flipping over Lee and hitting a future shock, which was super nice.
But hey,
and then, of course, they're at the top rope.
And this is the best part. But once again, I'm like, what is Drew McIntyre doing at the top rope again? This is like the second time in this match that he does it. Yeah. And this is where just Keith Lee hits him with a beautiful Spanish fly off the top rope. And it's not that I started to believe, but I was like, oh man, like Keith Lee is looking so great right now.
I never believed for a second, but yeah, that was amazing. I think you told me he has a 0% chance of winning.
Yes.
Because I told you, I'm like, what are the chances he turns heel and wins the title?
Sure.
What are the chances that Drew turns heel to retain the title? What are the chances that Sheamus interferes? None of these things happen because we just have a very solid finish, right?
Yeah. I remember at one point, this is where Keith Lee is about to go for a spirit bomb. Drew reverses that with the beautiful spine buster. Yeah. He goes for a claymore, but Keith Lee, this is really cool. Keith Lee catches him. He kind of catches his foot, and he picks him up for a spirit bomb once again, but Drew escapes. He runs the ropes, and he hits him with a sick claymore for the win. And again, nothing but respect from both of them, man. Drew McIntyre is showing respect to Keith Lee. They fist bump, and as Drew McIntyre, and I'm going to give you this moment. As Drew McIntyre is about to say something nice to Keith Lee.
I appreciate you giving me the moment, but I almost don't want it. Yeah, he's about to speak, but you hear Goldberg's music, and then the camera pans to the Tron where you see Goldberg, and he walks down, and I'm wondering, is his head bleeding? I'm not sure. But he gets into the ring, and Drew is very gracious and offers him a handshake, but Goldberg gives him the hold up a minute, and then he's looking for a mic, but he can't find one, so then Drew gives him the mic that he's holding, and then Goldberg speaks, and honestly, his promo was kind of decent, at least, I guess.
It didn't make sense, though. It didn't make sense. Zero sense. What do you mean?
It didn't make sense. It made absolutely no sense, but he didn't stumble on his words, and he said everything properly, so I got to give Goldberg credit for that.
Oh, my God. The bar is really low,
huh? Okay, I don't want to sit here and insult Goldberg because I don't want to accidentally get speared one day, but he basically says that there couldn't be a better guy as champion, kind of like what Hulk Hogan says, because Drew has like everything, size, speed, athleticism, but he's missing one thing, respect. And I'm like, okay, I mean, sure, let's see where this goes. And apparently he heard what Drew said, but that's not what he was actually thinking. Drew, in fact, according to Goldberg, thinks that all of these legends are actually washed up, and that Drew, in fact, thinks that him in his prime now is better than they ever were in their prime. And Goldberg says now this is where he steps in to kind of like take down this arrogant cockiness, I guess. And he says he's not demanding anything, but he is going to challenge him at the Royal Rumble. And so Drew replies and says, that's not at all what I've said. You said, I'm all about respect, and you're just trying to get into my head. And then Drew gives him quite a beautiful line. He says that Goldberg is no longer the man he was 20 years ago, and fighting him now would be like fighting his dad, mate. And Goldberg kind of like says, fighting your dad, eh? And then just shoves him, and then Drew just falls on his ass and looks like a loser, and then the show just ends. And I could not be more angry.
There were so many things that were wrong with this. First of all, USA Network. There was a time when Raw would go a little bit over and it was okay. Like the show that was following up Raw was the Stone Cold Steve Austin show. I'm pretty sure you could have taken 2 minutes away and could have had like a better way of ending Raw. So that's number one.
There was a point in time, I forget when, where they like made a made a point that it's like it's 11 now on the spot.
No, I understand, but then Goldberg shouldn't have Goldberg. I feel like yes, he didn't mess up his lines, but dude, like, come on, if you know that you're running out of time, there were so many things that like you could have you were pausing, you were going back and forth and everything like that. It was just bad. It was just completely bad, and I don't believe anything that Goldberg is saying, and the fact that he's saying listen, I'm not demanding anything, but I am challenging you. Who are you to be asking Drew McIntyre for a title shot?
He's a Hall of Famer.
Doesn't make sense to me. And
that's what it is.
The last time you were in a match, you almost killed someone by, I guess, destroying their neck because you couldn't pick them up. I really, really don't understand. And this is not me trying to be sour grapes or hating on Goldberg, but the one thing that I have to tell you, though, is you need to watch Raw Talk, because during Raw Talk, Mustafa Ali had an amazing promo where he berated the WWE, and he's like, we just had a 3-hour show where it was all about the legends and how the legends paved the way and everything like that. And he says the most beautiful line ever. He's like, I get it, respect and all that kind of stuff. If you guys are talking about them paving the way, when am I going to be able to walk down that path? So, again, just solid. Drop the mic or whatever. And then Charlie Caruso was saying, yeah, but didn't you hear all the cheers and everything? And then Mustafa Ali's like, yeah, they really bumped up those cheers, huh? Charlie had no answer because, dude, why would you even say a stupid line like that when clearly it's not the fans that are cheering? They're piping in. Anyways, Mustafa Ali just killed her. He destroyed both R-Truth and Charlie, and he makes a good point. And he
really set herself up to fail there. That was not. There's no real cheers. And we're not cheering at all.
Yeah, and this is the episode of Raw in a nutshell. I think that the last 45 minutes of Raw saved the show, and then it got ruined once again with the main event. It was not a good episode of Monday Night Raw, to be quite honest with you.
But this is one of the first throwback episode, legend episode, whatever you want to call it, version of this, where I didn't feel like the legends were just taking on the spotlight. They were used very sporadically. They were used to help improve Randy Orton, because he was the one who had most interactions with them. And we got to see Ricochet get advice. We don't know what was said, but we know we got advice. We got to see Matt Riddle, invent the bro show. They were used in not an obtrusive way.
Yes, except but the one legend of them all that kind of ruined everything and put
it was going great until the end, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. The last 45 minutes saved the show, and then it kind of got ruined at the end. But even then, before that, I didn't think that the match quality was great. Again, the last two matches, which encompassed the last 45 minutes, was really good.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it wasn't the Legends' fault this time. It wasn't they were overexposed, except the last segment. It was a okay episode of Raw where they did weird things like the Bobby Lashley Riddle thing, and a lot of the matches early on weren't great. New Day Miz TV was just, I did not care for that. But like you said, at the end, the last few matches were great. I do enjoy, even though the Hurt Business tag match was kind of boring, it was furthering an interesting storyline. And then we had the two matches you said were great: Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, and Drew McIntyre Lee. And AJ and Elias was also pretty good. Mm-hmm. Not as good as last week, but still good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think overall, when I gave it a score, I think the main event really put it up, the score. So for me, I would say a 6 would be okay for this episode.
6-7, yeah, seems about right.
I just don't understand. Just Goldberg. What do they see in him? I'm just really worried that Goldberg is gonna come in, spear Drew McIntyre, and then win that title. And everything that Drew McIntyre has done the past year will be for naught.
After Hulk Hogan thanked him for doing this during the pandemic era, this is the thanks he's gonna get. I mean, for me, the only way I see this going down that makes sense is either the match starts, the bell rings, Drew claymores him and wins, or Goldberg spears him, jackhammers him, Drew kicks out, and then claymores him and wins. That's the only way I see this going down, where I think it makes perfect sense.
I hope you're right. So we'd be curious to know what you guys think. And while you're doing that, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to our channel. It goes a long way, and we appreciate it. Do you like the fact that Goldberg is back, or do you share our sentiment and you're not happy with what transpired to close out the show? And that's it, man. I'm at a loss of words, so I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing here. Goldberg threw me off my game completely here. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just thinking of all the things that could happen. Like he wins the title, then wins the Rumble, then challenges Roman.
I'm so scared.
I don't know.
Don't even.
I'm terrified.